Have you ever built a wall around yourself? Not a physical one, but a wall made of silence, of distance, of I'm fine when you're anything but. It's a wall built brick by brick, each one a past hurt, a disappointment, a fear of what might happen if you let someone get too close. This is the story of a girl named Ilara, and the magnificent, terrible wall she built. From a young age, Ilara learned that the world could be sharp. A thoughtless word from a friend, a promise broken, a dream that crumbled to dust, each one felt like a small, stinging blow. She was a sensitive soul, feeling everything with a depth that was both a gift and a curse. After one particularly painful heartbreak, she made a decision. No more vulnerability, no more pain. So, she began to build. Her first brick was silence. Where she once shared her dreams, she now offered vague replies. The second brick was avoidance. Invitations from friends were met with polite excuses. The third was a carefully crafted mask of indifference, a shield that said, "Nothing can touch me." Brick by brick, her wall grew higher. It was a masterpiece of self-preservation. From inside, the world looked muted, the colors less vibrant, the sounds muffled. It was safe. The sharp edges of life couldn't reach her anymore. The fear of rejection, of being misunderstood, of being hurted all faded into a quiet hum behind the stones. She told herself she was strong, independent, and self-sufficient. Her solitude was a fortress, and she was its queen. For a while, it worked. Life became predictable, manageable. There were no soaring highs, but crucially, there were no devastating lows. It was a flat, even landscape of quiet days. She read books, walked alone, and watched the world from a safe distance. She had successfully insulated herself from pain. She was protected. She was safe. But was she free? One spring afternoon, a small, persistent vine began to grow at the base of her wall. It started as a tiny green shoot, easily ignored. This vine was a new neighbor, an old man named Arthur who tended to his garden next door. He had kind eyes and a smile that seemed to reach them. He'd wave to her window every morning. At first, Ilara just ignored him, retreating deeper into the shadows of her fortress. But Arthur was patient. He didn't try to break down her wall. He didn't even seem to notice it. He just was. He'd leave a ripe red tomato on her doorstep. He'd hum a cheerful tune that drifted through her window. One day, a small, brightly colored bird, attracted by Arthur's bird feeder, landed right on her windowsill. It chirped a song so bright and clear that it seemed to vibrate through the very stones of her wall. Ilara found herself drawn to the window, watching Arthur in his garden. She saw him laugh as he chased a mischievous squirrel away from his sunflowers. She saw him carefully tending to a fragile rose bush. He lived with such an open heart, embracing the sunshine and the rain alike. He wasn't afraid of the thorns on the roses. He simply appreciated their beauty. Slowly, something inside Ilara began to stir, a forgotten curiosity, a flicker of warmth. The safety of her wall started to feel less like a fortress and more like a cage. The quiet was no longer peaceful, it was empty. The muted world wasn't safe, it was bland. She realized she hadn't felt a genuine, heart-swelling laugh in years. She hadn't felt the warmth of a shared smile, the comfort of a meaningful conversation. One day, as she watched Arthur, a gust of wind blew his favorite straw hat off his head and sent it tumbling over the fence into her yard. He looked over, a little helpless. This was it. A crack in the wall. She could retreat, pretend she didn't see. Or she could do something different. Her heart pounded in her chest, a frantic bird beating against the bars of its cage. This was the moment of choice. Fear screamed at her to stay inside, to stay safe. But a smaller, quieter voice, a voice she hadn't heard in a long time, whispered, "What if?" What if she opened the door? Taking a deep, shaky breath, Ilara walked to her back door, a door she hadn't opened in ages. It creaked in protest. She stepped out into the sunlight, and it felt blindingly bright, almost painful after so long in the shade. The air was fresh and smelled of damp earth and blooming flowers. She picked up the hat, its straw weave rough against her fingers. She walked to the fence. Arthur was waiting, his expression one of gentle surprise. "I believe this is yours," she said, her voice raspy from disuse. She passed the hat over the fence. Arthur took it, his warm, wrinkled hand brushing against hers for a fleeting second. It was the first human contact she'd willingly had in years. A jolt, like a tiny spark of electricity, shot up her arm. It wasn't painful. It was alive. "Thank you, my dear," he said, his smile genuine and kind. "It's a lovely day, isn't it?" Alara looked up at the sky, really looked at it. It was a brilliant, endless blue. She felt the warmth of the sun on her face. "Yes," she managed to say, a small, tentative smile touching her own lips. "Yes, it is." That small interaction didn't tear down the wall in an instant, but it created the first real crack. Through that crack, light began to pour in. The next day, she left a slice of the pie she'd baked on his doorstep. He left her a bouquet of his prize-winning roses in return. They began to talk over the fence, short conversations at first, then longer ones. She learned his wife had passed away a few years ago. He spoke of her with a love that was tinged with sadness, but not bitterness. "To love deeply means to risk great pain," he told her once, looking at his rosebush. "But my dear, what a tragedy it would be to never see the roses bloom for fear of the thorns." His words struck her to the core. She had spent so long avoiding the thorns that she had forgotten the beauty of the roses. She had built a wall to keep out the rain, but in doing so, had denied herself the feel of the sun. The wall that was meant to protect her had become her prison. It hadn't just kept out the pain. It had kept out joy, connection, laughter, and love. It had kept out life itself. The process of dismantling her wall was slow and deliberate. It meant saying yes to a coffee invitation. It meant sharing a small piece of her day with a coworker. It meant allowing herself to feel the sting of a minor disappointment without retreating into her shell. Each act was a stone removed from the wall. Some days were harder than others. The old fear would creep back in, whispering warnings, tempting her to rebuild. But now, she had a reason to keep going. She had felt the sun. She remembered the color of the sky. She knew that on the other side of fear wasn't just the possibility of pain, but the certainty of life in all its messy, beautiful, unpredictable glory. Alara learned that true strength isn't about building walls to keep the world out. It's about having the courage to tear them down. It's about being vulnerable enough to get hurt, but resilient enough to heal and open your heart again. It's about choosing to feel everything, the joy and the sorrow, because that is what it means to be truly alive and truly free. What walls have you built? And more importantly, are you ready to let in some light? Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more content that explores the heart of the human experience. We'd love to have you here.